Good evening, this is BelGeode, and we are back with some more Aerofly FS2. And tonight, I'm going to show a first look, a long overdue first look, of the new Miami scenery. Now, where we're starting out tonight is a very near and dear place to me because this is the first place that I ever saw an air show in my entire life. This is Homestead Air Force Base, located south of Miami and just north of Key Largo and areas like that. And of course, we are going to be using the aircraft that you can commonly find down in that neck of the woods, and that would be the F-15. However, bear in mind, since we're using Aerofly FS2, the only option that we have is the F-15E Strike Eagle, and not the F-15 Charlie model that's usually posted here. They also have F-16s, if I'm not too mistaken. I'm not really sure exactly what squadrons actually are there now, because a lot has changed since 1992 when Hurricane Andrew came through and just about decimated this airbase. And let me tell you folks, it was bad. I remember my dad at the time was working for an electrical company, and shortly after the hurricane, he took myself and my brother down there to help fix stuff up and, you know, get more electricity running throughout the area. And I remember Homestead Air Force Base looked like someone had leveled it with a bomb. It was just crazy. But this version here in Aerofly 2 looks to be intact and also pretty well done. So what we're going to be checking out tonight is going to be the rest of the Miami and South Florida area that IPACS has given us to play around in. And we'll examine some of the pros and cons of the scenery, some of the things that I enjoy, and some of the things that I think they have areas of opportunity. But without further ado, we're going to need to get to the runway, so let's see if we can taxi all the way over to runway 6, and then we'll take off, we'll head north, check out Miami, check out some of the other airports in Metro-Dade area or Miami-Dade area, and then, as a special treat, we're going to fly south to Key West and land at Key West Naval Air Station. Now, I don't remember exactly which update it was, but they have incorporated my favorite little item right here, the helmet mounted display. So now I don't have to do any kind of OBS voodoo shenanigans to make it pop up to where you can see it. But you can see our flight plan right there. KTMB is Tamiami Airport, KMIA of course is Miami International, and OPF is Opa-locka. That's as far north as the airports go, but I'll be discussing all of that in a moment. And then you can see our little flight plan goes off to the south and follows the Florida Keys. Alright, but I've wasted enough time yakking, so let's see if we can get out of here before the sun sets. Let's get our parking brakes off, and we'll move forward. I actually turned the parking brakes on there. I'm guessing by default they're not on. As far as I'm aware, they have not made any improvements to either the F-15 or the F-18, or at least not that I really noticed anything new and interesting. It's still exactly as it was, but suffice to say, it's still pretty decent fighter jets that you can fly around in Aerofly FS2. Of course, a lot of the other aircraft have had some pretty major improvements over the months, so as the videos go on, I'll bring up the various aircraft that they've improved and, of course, show you some of the stuff that they've made better. But for now, we are in for a relatively long taxi to the end of runway 6, so I am going to go to the outside view and see if we can trim off some time here. Okay, so we are finally at runway 6, so we're going to pull up to the hold short here. We'll put the parking brakes back on, make sure that our control surfaces work by doing our control surfaces wipeout, and then we'll get the flaps on in preparation for takeoff. We probably don't even really need the flaps because this runway is just immensely long. Alright, but right here should be good, so we'll lightly tap the brakes. I've noticed that the nose wheel is a little sensitive on this bird. And we'll get the parking brakes on there. And then we'll go to the outside view again and do our controls wipeout. Okay, all control surfaces check out, so we are pretty much good to go. We'll take one final look at Homestead Air Force Base. I believe it's now called Homestead Air Reserve Base. And like I said, this one definitely has a special place in my heart because this was also the very first time that I ever saw an F-14 Tomcat. I remember it was the mid-80s and I was totally awestruck. It was shortly after Top Gun came out, and of course I was a little too young to see Top Gun initially, but I saw it after the fact. But yeah, I remember that day vividly. I remember the sound of the F-14 just screaming across this airspace. It was just incredible. If I had to pin one specific date as to when I really fell in love with a Tomcat, that would have been the date, was the air show that they had here that day. Alright, but enough of my reminiscing. Let's get our parking brakes off, and we'll take the active. I gotta remember this is not an F-18 Hornet, so my turn radius is a little bit wider. There we go, that should be it. Alright, we're tracking down the center line, so we're good to go. So you know what it's time for, folks. Brakes down, throttles up. Alright, so we're airborne and already over Mach 1. It is amazing. I love it. This thing has so much power. It's impressive. And for those of you who are watching that are also fans of like my DCS series and whatnot, you will be pleased to know that Razbam did confirm several months ago that they're going to be bringing their F-15E Strike Eagle to DCS. Like everything else with DCS, we'll probably get it in 2 more weeks. Alright, but now that we're airborne and over South Florida, let's take a quick look at everything that they have put in this scenery and see how well they managed to pull it off. Of course, this is one of those areas that, for me, is the true litmus test as to whether or not IPACS knows what they're doing, because I know this area like the back of my hand. I've been flying around here since I was a kid. So, yeah, I can tell you if the stuff is not up to par. But there's Homestead Air Force Base there, and let's see if we can find Tamiami. I think it's behind this cloud. Yep, there it is. Okay, let's come down towards the deck a little bit here. We'll fly past Tamiami, and then I'm going to continue heading west a little bit because I want to see how they modeled the Everglades. If you know anything about Florida, you'll know that Florida basically has two areas of civilization along the Atlantic coast and along the Gulf of Mexico. When you start getting into the southern parts of Florida, of course, we have the Everglades, which is the largest natural water source, which right now is in quite a bit of danger because of things like algae and so on, and red tide and all of that crap. But one of the key things about South Florida is the civilization seems to end like right about there, and then we've got nothing but Everglades until we get over to the Gulf Coast area. So yeah, this is like one of those telling points to see how well IPACS was able to pull off that delineation between civilization and crocodile country. We've got Tamiami back there, give you a quick look. And we are going to head out this way and take a look at their textures for the Everglades. This is pretty much what it looks like. Of course, it's Aerofly, so you know they're using orthophotos for their scenery. You really can't go wrong with orthophotos, except, of course, the fact that they do tend to look flat if you don't have anything rendered on top of them. But I can assure you that as far as the Everglades goes, yeah, this is pretty much it. This is all you're going to see in that area. It's pretty wild. I do love the fact that they've got the modeled colors and everything, and you can clearly see there's no cloud shadows, so I know they obviously took their time as far as getting this thing to look like it would in real life. It does have all of those weird discolorations because of the varying water levels and, of course, the algae and all of that stuff. So yeah, they did good here. Alright, but let's see if we can head back to civilization. We're going to check out the biggest airport that you get with this scenery. That, of course, being Miami International Airport. And I'm at Angels 7 right now, so I might want to bring her up to about Angels 10, and that way we can get a little bit more of a commanding view of South Florida here. You can see some more of the Everglades, some of the reservoirs, all the various farms like sugarcane farms and stuff like that. Pretty cool. Can't tell you how many times I've actually flown this way, either coming into Miami or coming into Fort Lauderdale, and we'll discuss that in a moment. Awesome stuff. There's the areas of Kendall and Homestead, of course. A little bit further down, Tamiami. Yeah, this is pretty much what Florida's like. A lot of suburbs, a lot of sprawl, and then, boom, Everglades. But then when you get to this side of town, of course, you've got the world-famous Miami International Airport, one of the big gateways into the United States, in particular from Latin America, and, of course, places such as Europe and Africa and whatnot. This is a pretty sterling rendition. This looks exactly like I remember the last time I was in Miami. As a matter of fact, I think the only thing they missed was the airframe mechanic college or university that's across the street from the airport, where my dad actually studied to learn how to do that sort of thing. But I'll take a quick break from talking. We'll circle around the airport and we'll take a look from the outside. So there you go, folks. Miami International Airport. For those of you who use Aerofly FS2 to fly your airliners, This is going to be the biggest draw for you coming in here. Now, we're going to pass by Key West International Airport as well before this video is done, so you'll have an idea of how you can compare the two. You can get in something like a 737 into Key West International. You probably don't want to try anything bigger than that, however. Alright, I'm going to swing us up to the north here because I want to check out Opa-locka, which is another one of those airports that you, if you live in Florida, you're probably going to end up going to kind of learn how to fly. And this is also at the point where I'm going to talk about some of the things that I feel are areas of opportunity for this scenery. The biggest of which, the area that I grew up in, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, you know, pretty much all of Broward County. I grew up all around Broward County. None of that's modeled. We have like some of the houses here and there, but if you look off in that direction, you should be able to see Fort Lauderdale International Airport. You should be able to see downtown Fort Lauderdale and all the other various suburbs. None of it is modeled. So it looks like IPACS decided to draw the line, if you will, at the border of Broward and Dade, Miami-Dade counties. So that means that we've got Opa-locka Airport here, but we're missing another key airport just to the north called North Perry Airport, which is linked to Broward College, where I went to school. That airport, I think, should have been modeled because of the fact that it's so important to, you know, Cessna pilots and so on and so forth. That is not even to say, you know, Fort Lauderdale International Airport, which is, I guess in this case, the second biggest airport in this area, second only to Miami International, or points north like West Palm Beach and so on and so forth. And yes, I do understand. If you look around, it's a lot of work that IPACS has done to pull this all together. And my hat definitely goes off to them. But I'm only hoping that at some point in time in the very near future, they do plan on adding Fort Lauderdale and points north, because really, that's what makes South Florida as far as I'm concerned. Miami's great and everything, but Miami wouldn't be anything without Fort Lauderdale and, you know, Hollywood and all the other places that I know intimately, having spent so much of my life there. All right, but with that having been said, let's get back to Miami itself, or in this case, we're over by North Miami. And we've got North Miami Beach coming up, and if you follow the row of skyscrapers, you will eventually get to South Miami Beach, affectionately known as South Beach. That's probably the place that you've seen the most of on TV and so on and so forth. And we also have the University of Miami and areas like that around here, as well as some of the more expensive houses that some of the celebrities live in. So all of that was modeled, and it looks like they did a pretty damn good job on that. What we're going to do is we're going to go past the downtown Miami area. I'll show you one of my favorite concert venues, and then we'll swing up the Miami Beach area, and we'll check out and see if we can find some of these alleged people that they've got sunbathing on the beach. Alright, if you blink you'll miss it, so I'm going to see if I can slow us down a little bit, and I want to show you Bicentennial Park, which was where I first saw Metallica, my all-time favorite band. So we've got downtown Miami here, and we've got the basketball arena, and then right over here, that is Bicentennial Park. That is probably one of the most awesome venues for music, and that's not the only concert that I saw there, but of course Metallica, since they hold a very special place in my heart, I have to mention them. But I did also go to Lollapalooza when they used to have that traveling around the country, And that was also a really kick-ass place to see a Lollapalooza festival. So it's right there, just kind of nestled on the shore. I remember it being so hot that day that people were actually breaking down the fence and jumping into the bay. It was crazy. Alright, but now we are back in Miami Beach, in South Beach. Another one of my old stomping grounds from my heavy metal days when my band would come down here and play some of the various venues. So let's see if we can skirt along the coastline here and see if any of these animated people pop up or if it'll just be nothing but orthophotos. So far it's looking like it's nothing but orthophotos. But we're going to go outside and get as low as we can go as we skirt along Miami Beach. So there you go, folks. You've got North Miami Beach, you've got South Miami Beach, or South Beach. You've got the port of Miami right there with all the cruise ships and the cargo ships and whatnot. You've got all the various little islands that it's really expensive to live on. And then, of course, you've got downtown Miami. And there's Bicentennial Park again, in case you missed it the first time. It's directly ahead behind the lens flare there. Alright, so that is Miami. I hope you like that. We've also got Key Biscayne down here too. But speaking of the Keys, that's going to be the second part of our journey, is heading down to the Florida Keys. So I'm going to turn myself in this direction. We can also check our handy dandy pop-up here. There we go. We know that we're heading the right way. We want to be heading towards Key Largo. And then we'll head south from there. So let's see if we can gain a bit of altitude here. We'll bring her up to about Angels 25 thereabouts. And then we'll take a look at the Florida Keys all the way down until we get to Key West. Okay, we're at about Angels 23. I'm thinking that should be sufficiently high enough. So let's see if we can get our autopilot on. It's been a while since I've used this one, so I'm hoping that I've got it correct. Oh, you know what? I think my trim might be off. You know what? I'm not even going to worry about it right now. We're just going to manually control it. And we'll continue heading south. Okay, so if you look down below, this is the first of the Florida Keys airports. This is in Key Largo. The name, of course, will be flashing up right now. I'm having an old person brain fart right now. I don't actually remember the name, but you should be able to see it on the little pop-up right now. Key Largo, of course, is the largest of the Florida Keys, and it quickly leads into places like Isla Morada, which is Spanish for the Purple Isle, And then, of course, it continues heading south to some of the areas that, if you've been to the Florida Keys, you're probably more familiar with, such as Marathon and, of course, Key West proper. You can see a bit more Everglades there. One thing I did notice is they did not model fully the nuclear power station over by that green section. Right on that corner there, there's a nuclear power station called Turkey Point. It's not modeled, so hopefully that's something that when they eventually get around to doing updates for this scenery, they can kind of throw that in there, because it is needed. It is one of the more important power stations in this area. Now, I do realize that I don't really fly at night in Aerofly FS2, but I have done it before, in particular with this scenery, because Florida has a very distinctive look at night, and I wanted to check that out. I can assure you, IPACS nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. The lighting that they've got all around Miami is just glorious. They really did it justice. Alright, we're passing over Isla Morada right now, so I'm thinking we should probably bring it down to the deck. I want to see just how fast we can go here, so let me do some shenanigans here. Alright, we're ready at 400 knots, so we'll roll back around. We'll get ready to level off just below the cloud deck. And I want to do a sprint all the way to Marathon Keys here. Of course, we'll do it from the outside too, so that way you can see some of this beautiful scenery that I'm seeing. Alright, I want to bring her down to about 2,000, so right about there should be good. Let's open her up. Way up. One thing that I've noticed performance-wise, when I was doing my little sprint there, we started having a little bit of stuttering, which is saying a lot for this sim, because normally this sim is excellent when it comes to performance. So I'm kind of surprised to be experiencing that. I don't know how much of that has to do with the fact that I'm recording using OBS. So, you know, there's all those resources going at the same time while it's trying to calculate for the scenery up ahead. But yeah, that's a little bit unnerving and a little bit unusual, but it's honestly the first time that I've ever experienced something like that here in Aerofly FS2. It's not too critical. It looks like it's dying out right now, and we're just over Mach 1, so I'm going to pull her all the way back because I can see the VASI lights for Marathon Airport. We're going to do a little flyby of Marathon Airport here. Let me swing out to the left, make sure I've got a good angle on it. Bar none, this is definitely one of my favorite of the Keys in Florida. My favorite restaurant, the Sunset Grill. I love to give them free advertising in whatever flight simulator I'm in. So every time I pass Sunset Grill, I gotta throw a little shout out to them. They probably have no idea that I'm doing this, but yeah, I'm your #1 customer. It's real easy to find that restaurant. It's literally right before the 7 Mile Bridge. So the last square or rectangular building that you see just before we get to the 7 Mile Bridge, that's Sunset Grill. All right, so let's go back to the outside, and I'll point it out to you as we go past. Okay, so hopefully you got a pretty good look at Sunset Grill. They did model it, so I'm very proud of that. And there's Pigeon Key. And we're going to be heading past the world-famous 7 Mile Bridge, and then we'll give it a little bit more power. Because really, even though the southern portion of the Keys, or the lower Keys as they call them, are rather beautiful, there's not a whole heck of a lot there. There's like a lot of residences and so on and so forth. But nothing, in my opinion, really noteworthy, except for the one airport where they do the skydiving. And, of course, the Bat Tower, which I don't even know if IPACS modeled the Bat Tower, to be honest with you. But yes, we're on the other side of the 7 Mile Bridge, and of course, this is what really makes a Florida Keys scenery. Look at the variations in color for the water and so on. And, of course, the bridges. This is what really makes it work. Now, if you saw the previous video that I did of the Florida Keys project that Hot Wings 1 was working on, this is the end result, you might say. So whereas that scenery was lacking a little bit because, of course, it was, you know, just the beginning portions of getting this done, you can see how everything has matured until we finally have this. And I gotta say, folks, this looks good. This looks really good. Of course, bear in mind, I'm still kind of partial to my X-Plane 11 scenery, only because I used orthophoto for that, and of course the fact that X-Plane actually has quote-unquote real water when it comes to the actual textures that you're seeing, whereas IPACS is still using the orthophotos on there. But that being said, the fact that they've got orthophotos all over this place is really what sells it for me. It does still feel like Florida. The only times that it gets a little bit jarring is, for example, when you see speedboats there, where you can see the speedboat wake because it's in the picture, but you don't actually see the speedboat. But again, that's kind of nitpicky stuff that, you know, if I were making the scenery, I would probably concentrate on adding the actual boat to the wake of the boat. But I'm not going to hold it against IPACS, because I would say that based on what I saw before and what I'm seeing right now, they really did this area justice. In fact, the only thing I'm really going to take points off for, if I were judging this scenery, is the fact that it's missing my actual hometown. So yeah, as soon as you can get Fort Lauderdale in as part of this scenery, IPACS, I will be more than happy to give it a 10 out of 10. But for now, the most you can hope to get from me would be a 9 out of 10. But then if you've been watching my channel any length of time, you know that I don't really do any kind of rating system. I'll just tell you what I like and what I don't like. Alright, but in my yammering, you may have noticed that we have gotten close to our final destination. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Key West Naval Air Station, which of course was not there in the first iteration of this Key West scenery. But it's fully fleshed out now. We've even got F-18 Hornets hanging out there, so we're going to be parking close to them. But before we bring it home to Key West Naval Air Station, we're going to want to take a look at Key West itself, because that is the real test to see if IPACS has actually pulled off the scenery. So I'm going to give us a little bit of airspeed here. We're going to go back to the outside view, and then we're going to scope out the scenery and make sure that it matches what I remember being in Key West. So far, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the sailboats, I'm seeing the yachts, I'm seeing the cruise liners, I'm seeing the fort. Only thing I'm missing is the southernmost point. So I know exactly where that is. Let's see if we can find it here. Alright, IPACS, don't let me down, guys. Bam! There it is! That red, black, and yellow thing right there. That is the southernmost point of the United States. And IPACS, you done did good. You remembered it. Yay! Alright, of course we also have Key West International Airport. I promised you we would fly by there. So yeah, it's really not a big airport, but you can bring a 737 in here. You're going to want to make sure your brakes are up to par, though. Otherwise, it could get a little bit squirrely on you. They remembered the plus-shaped buildings here. That's awesome. I love it. Yes, this is Key West. This is definitively Key West. Nicely done, IPACS. Alright, so let's take a quick look at the Naval Air Station. We'll do a flyby and then we'll come around in our circuit and then we'll land. And that'll do it for this video. And I'm still getting a little bit of stutters here, so I do apologize. It's not your monitor, it's not YouTube. It is actually stuttering right now in this sim. And as I stated before, that's the first time I've experienced that in this, so I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I'll do my troubleshooting later. I want to show you both the good and the bad when it comes to what I'm experiencing here, so if I gotta apologize, then you'll just have to accept my apology. Alright, but we're gonna make a quick loop around here, and then we'll come in and land on runway 8, I believe it is. Watch our speed here. We're 288 knots right now. Okay, and now we are downwind. Really should be a little bit further out, but this thing's got a tight enough turn radius that I think I can handle it. Alright, let's get our speed brakes out. Speed brakes are out. And I realized I actually didn't go into the Wizzo seat this time around, as opposed to the last time that I showed off the F-15. But I think we'll survive this time. Alright, gear down. And we're still a little fast for flaps, but I'm going to go ahead and get them down now. Okay, there we go. We'll go to the channel in between the islands here, between Boca Chica Key and Key West. And then we'll do our turn around the final. And by the way, this area also looks really good at night. If you ever get the chance to go down to Key West, I highly, highly recommend that you take like a brief tour or fly around the area. Maybe come in at Marathon and have lunch over at Sunset Grill or something. It is well worth it. Okay, but I'm going to shut up now and see if I can bring us on the deck. Welcome, folks, to Naval Air Station Key West on Boca Chica Key. And we're just looking for our turnoff here. I know it's a little bit further down, and then we're going to have to taxi all the way back over there. So that's going to be fun. I'll probably shorten that up. We're pretty much done with everything that I wanted to show you. So once again, the pros of this scenery, it looks like Florida. It actually does. They did a really good job on that. Of course, they had orthos to work with, so, you know, that really helps out a lot. But the fact that they paid attention to some of the smaller details, like, for example, the southernmost point and Bicentennial Park and all of that, really wins it for me. Big downside is, of course, the fact that the scenery ends at the county line between Broward County and Miami-Dade County. But like I said, I'll be willing to forgive that if you at least let me know at some point in time if you're planning on adding Broward County and possibly even West Palm Beach. Because you really can't think about Miami without thinking about those other two areas as well. They're just so interconnected. But I really appreciate you going the extra mile to flesh out Key West Naval Air Station for me, because anyone who's been a long-time viewer of this channel knows whenever I go to test new aircrafts, 9 times out of 10, I'll end up coming here. This just seems to be my default area for testing new aircraft, so I appreciate you putting it in there. And as soon as we get our first helicopter for Aerofly FS2, which I hear is coming at some point in time soon, trademark, this is where I'm going to be taking it to actually give it a test run. Okay, but it is going to take me a little while to taxi over to where the Hornets are parked, so I'll go to the outside view, we'll cut this short a little bit, and we'll pick it back up when I'm ready to say my goodbyes to all of you. Okay, so this is our final destination, folks. We're going to park over here with the Hornets of Squadron VFA 106, otherwise known as the Gladiators. And that's another interesting little tie-in there. VFA 106 should be relatively familiar to you all, because if you caught my most recent DCS video, the Centennial of Naval Aviation livery that I used in that video was a part of VFA 106. And not only that, but my very first X-Plane 11 video where I flew the Kalamata Hornet in this airport or in this area was also the same exact livery, VFA 106, the Kona edition, Centennial of Naval Aviation. Okay, but we are here, so that means we are done. And I hope you have enjoyed my brief tour of South Florida and, of course, the Florida Keys. And I do hope that you give this scenery a shot. Hopefully they'll be able to update it at some point in time and add some more areas to it. But for what they have right now, it should provide you with a lot of fun times. As you can see, there's a lot of places to see, and there's quite a few airports for you to test your skill departing and arriving from. So with that having been said, that'll do it for me this time around. Thank you as always for watching. This has been BelGeode. I have been flying in Aerofly FS2, and I've been flying the relatively new, or brand new, I guess, Florida scenery package, which is payware. The link will be in the video description down below. Be sure to pick it up. And I'll be back at some point in time in the future with some more Aerofly FS2, most likely once we actually get our helicopter. But I also want to kind of show off the Netherlands scenery that Orbix has, so you'll probably see that before you see the helicopter. Either way, if you enjoy what you've seen, please feel free to give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I will catch you on the next one. Ciao!